Hi, this is Derek. I have another VHS Memories review for you for today. Let's go back to a much simpler, better time, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when movie studios, they would market these R-rated action movies to kids, and no one would really seem to bat an eye about it, find it unusual or anything like that. So you had like Saturday morning cartoon shows, or comic books, action figures, video games, of course, based on things, like Rambo or Aliens, Terminator 2. And within this kind of magical, nostalgic time, this brief window of awesomeness, one of the key movies, and one of the most memorable, had to be Robocop. And I'm sure there are a lot of kids growing up in that time who had this VHS, who watched this movie over and over and enjoyed the hell out of it. I know I'm one of them. Really kind of a rite of passage, I think. I mean, Robocop, you can't really beat Robocop. It is one of the best action movies ever made. One of the best sci-fi action movies ever made. Really, really over the top with its violence, but in a glorious kind of way, similar to what I was talking about with Total Recall. Because you have this director, Paul Verhoeven, who is kind of this outsider looking in to the American action movie kind of movement, where he does it in such a way. The action in this movie, the violence, the gore is so over the top that it does become satire of the action genre as a whole. And the movie is very satirical, of course, showing all the commercials on TV, like, I'd buy that for $1, stuff like that. And it is really clever in its whole story. It is such a unique kind of story where we have this man, this normal cop, in this kind of crime-stricken, almost hopeless dystopia of Detroit, who is gunned down in a very violent act, and through this corporation, they're bringing him back as Robocop. So there's a lot of interesting paths that they were able to take with that concept, and I think they followed through with it magnificently. So many great action scenes in this movie, but there is a deeper level to it, which I think is kind of what makes this movie work the way it is. And I think definitely Paul Verhoeven was right to cast it the way he did, because we have Peter Weller in the lead role of Robocop, who he's not really what you would expect the normal kind of action star to be, like not like the Stallone or the Schwarzenegger, not this big bulky guy. In fact, he's a very average kind of height. And of course, everyone knows kind of the trick is that they kind of tilted the camera upwards to give it an appearance that he's taller. But he is a legit actor, and though he is covered in this elaborate suit, this big metal hunko, whatever, the performance shines through, and we sense that there is this struggle for humanity within Robocop, where the whole movie, it is about him struggling with that, and that is kind of, it has comedic play to it, where the movie, it does, in the end, I won't give it entirely away, but in the end, he does reach his resolution in a way where he kind of makes that decision, like, this is where I stand on this, and that helps him kind of win the day in a very clever way. And so Weller is able to communicate that extremely well, and you can of course read deeper into it, as I said, and I remember an interview with him recently where they were asking about, oh, it's the so-and-so anniversary of Robocop, what do you think about this role? And he just had all this excellent on-the-spot answers to the question, about death and resurrection, and how it's kind of symbolic for that, and how it is about this struggle for humanity. So, I mean, to be human, it's something we all come into, we're born with, whatever. But for this character, this Robocop character, to have to fight for it, to earn it, that's pretty awesome. So I can't praise Weller enough in his wonderful role in the lead. Nancy Allen, also really great too, and it's interesting that they could have made this almost like kind of the trend at the time, kind of a buddy cop kind of angle to it, which is oddly enough what they do in the remake, but let's not talk about that. so it is Nancy Allen playing the partner, and she's great. But to make it a woman character, I think, gives it a slight bit of an edge that you wouldn't quite expect. It was a little bit against, say, the cliche at the time, or maybe not. I don't know, but still, it's something that made it stand out. Of course, we have the great villains. We have Kurtwood Smith, Red Foreman, as kind of the big bad henchman leader guy who's a real cold and calculating badass, and he's just awesome in the movie. I mean, really. He has no remorse for anything. He revels in being this evil son of a bitch. So he's great in his role. One of Kurtwood Smith's best roles, I think. And Miguel Ferreira is also great. Ronnie Cox, also great. Everyone's so great in this movie. I mean, again, Paul Verhoeven just cast it so well, and he's able to make these great action scenes that stand out in such a way where every action scene, no matter what, I mean, all of them do have kind of an angle to them where there's like a kind of a, I don't know, like a punchline to each action scene, like where the one criminal, he's holding the girl hostage, and Robocop's solution is to shoot through where the opening in her legs is through the dress, so it shoots him in the dick, and of course renders him, dickless. But I don't know, it's stuff like that. And of course, with the very end, kind of there is a punchline to that too. And great effects. Again, really over the top action, where, I mean, with this, I don't know how many like squibs they used in this movie, but they must have used 800,000 bajillion million squibs in this movie, because all you see is it's incredible. And I miss that, I really do. That's another thing. I mean, you can get nostalgic about it, but it's true, like with the digital blood and stuff like that, there's too much of that. Its action scenes are so over the top and so well done, and very comical. Like, you have blood splattering everywhere, but you also have the unforgettable scene where one of the villains, he's doused in the toxic ooze, and he's like, help me, and he's melting, and it's so disgusting, but you can't stop watching because it's kind of awesome too, and that's kind of the trick to the movie. So I think it's just like Total Recall, it goes over the level so much that you can't really address the violence and blood and gore and stuff in the movie in kind of the normal practice of things, because it is so over the top, that it is so comic booky, that it's ridiculous, but in the best possible kind of way, which is what I think one of the key parts to the movie's brilliance is. So I love the hell of it. I mean, really, you don't need to tell me, or you don't need me to tell you that Robocop is a fucking classic. Robocop, I love it. Peter Weller, great in the movie. Paul Verhoeven, what a brilliant director. What a great choice to come to Hollywood and do this movie. And so many great memorable lines, dead or alive, creep, you're coming with me. I love that stuff. And I love Robocop and the whole franchise. But, I mean, of course, the first film, it's just an absolute classic, one of the essential action movies of the 1980s, and a personal favorite. I love it. So, I mean, definitely, if you haven't seen Robocop, you gotta check it out. I mean, where have you been? Check out Robocop. So that's my review for today. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you later.